Hello! And have you wondered what the worst FPL team is? Well, now you are. The goal here is to build the worst, most expensive team possible. These players are not quite Woody the Woodpecker and are all the way down at the bottom of the pecking order for their teams. Or they are just way too expensive when there are so many better options for their team. But why would we build the worst team? Why the frick would we do this? Well, just a bit of fun, bit of bants, innit? But also, if you have any of these players, don't. That's not to say these are bad players, like respect the GOAT Lingardinho. But for FPL, they are definitely abysmal, and they should be in the bin rather than your team. I've tried to avoid too many players that are on their way to another team, or new transfers, because that's just not fair. All players matter. But this team would have scored a whopping 676 points last season. That's only if all 15 players played every week. But this team also cost just shy of 95 million, almost using the entire budget. Starting with a third choice goalkeeper that is priced at 5 million and has made 7 league appearances in 5 years. It's Sergio Romero. Now, even when David De Gea is wearing banana peel gloves and dropping everything, he's still not getting dropped for Romero. But now with Dino Henderson looking like he's going to stay and battle it out with De Gea for first spot, Romero is in the mud and probably won't even get a game in the Mickey Mouse Cup. Never mind a league game, so don't choose him. With next to him in goals, it's a second choice goalkeeper, again at 5 million, and not made a league appearance in 2 years. It's Carl Darlow. Didn't even know he existed until yesterday, to be honest, but he's second choice in a Newcastle team that could struggle next year. Well, wait, never mind, they're going to sign Mbappe, right? Not yet. I have no idea why he has been priced at 5 million, saying that the last 2 years he was 4.5 million and he hasn't made a single appearance. So why did he go up in price? Because even Arsenal's second choice keeper, who did play last year and could also start the season if Leno Leg still isn't working, he's cheaper than the Newcastle backup. Not too sure about that one, Chief, but avoid Darlow unless you want low points. Also, honourable mention to 38-year-old Willy Caballero, who is also 5 mil and would have never seen a football pitch again if Kepa could actually do the thing that Chelsea paid 70 million for him to do. But apparently he can't. But Caballero may never play a league game for Chelsea again. Rest in peace, Willie. Moving on to our defence, where you are more likely to see clean sheets in a curry restaurant's toilet than you are in this team. Starting with Zinchenko. Now, he might be my favourite Ukraine rapper of all time, but he's definitely not my favourite in FPL. Not only is he priced at 5.5 million, and now is probably the third choice left-sided fullback, maybe even fourth, with Baldy Pep even choosing right-footed Cancelo on the left more than him and Benjamin Mendy, who's still on the Mendy. And they might have Angelino coming back after a great season on loan to Leipzig too. And Zinchenko managed to get 0 goal contributions this season in 19 league games. So who doesn't want a very expensive fourth choice left back that doesn't even get any goals or assists anyway? Well, I don't. Ever, and that is why he's in this team and not my team. And Pep probably also thinks the same about this next player with Nicolas Otamendi. Now, he is actually the highest scoring defender out of all of these in this team last season, but still only had 82 points in almost 2,000 minutes. But trust me, this guy has the defending skills of anti-climb paint on a 2-foot tall fence. It just ain't gonna stop anyone going through, is it? Otamendi at 5 mil and will probably end up being 5th choice centre-back after Man City spent another 200 million on defence, which is more than most countries spend on their defence. But saying that, he probably will end up just playing a couple of games and scoring a couple of goals, because he just loves smashing his Swede on the end of that ball. But it's nah, you're good from me. Next up, with Chelsea's Emerson. 5 million isn't that bad for an attacking fullback battling for first place. Also from a top 6 team, right? Wrong. Not only was he selected by Lampard less than Marcus Alonso, who is the only defender I know that ignores defending so much he could be considered a goal hanger on the other side of the pitch. But Chelsea have also been playing right-footed as Piliqueta on the left side over him, as well as Chelsea potentially bringing in Ben Chilwell too, meaning Emerson will be chilling well on Chelsea's bench, probably not getting any minutes. Also, that Chelsea defence, oh dear, they are the actual definition of wibbly wobbly. And continuing the talk of Chelsea defence, next to Emerson is Tomori's son. Tomori is a great young prospect that can also score 40-yard screamers apparently, but Chelsea are quite well endowed in the centre-back department. And I don't mean in quality, they just have like 5 centre-back options, with Tomori probably being dead bottom of that pile now. Also not making an appearance for Chelsea since February. But he's still 5 million. Like, what are FPL doing, lads? But if you thought that was bad pricing, you haven't seen anything yet. With the sexiest, most skillful defender, not just in the league, but in the world, with the best ball control on the floor I've ever seen, it's Phil Jones. The Phil Jones that scored a whole 2 points last season with only 100 minutes played, as he's been nursing an injury all season. But are we sure he hasn't been nursing an injury for like 5 years? He's just that good. But he's priced at 5 million, also being probably 4th choice centre back. But the only good thing about Phil Jones is he probably wouldn't get arrested out in Greece, because he would probably just fall over before anything happened. Phil Jones is not going to concede a single goal this season himself. He's that essential. And that is the defence for this team sorted. Honourable mentions to Sideshow Bob, David Luiz at 5.5 million. And Man United's probably 3rd choice right back, Dalot at 5 million. But moving on to the middle of the field, in midfield, starting with Arsenal season ticket holder, Mesut Ozil. Well, he might as well be, because he spends more time in the stands for them than on the pitch or bench. You know, on a good day, Ozil can be one of the best players in the world. But he's probably played more games of Fortnite at home than he has for Arsenal this season. Also not playing a single minute for them since the restart. So 7 million for a player that, one, plays for the bandit club that is Arsenal, but he doesn't even play for them. So at 7 million, I don't think he should be in anyone's basket. Moving on to our next overpriced midfield, it's Giovanni Lo Celso. Now actually, this is one of the only players here that is probably the most nailed on and could get returns every now and again, and he's also a good player. But then you see his price and you see all the better options in that Spursy team, and you just want to return him back and get your money back. The position he plays means he's not usually the main part of the attack, and is usually the assister to the assister. But he's actually a perfect example of the type of player you don't want to own in FPL, where even if he's nailed, even if he plays well, he's not actually going to be getting many FPL points for you at all, which should always be the main reason you choose a player. So for 7 million, I would actually rather buy a couple of Freddo chocolate bars, and they'll probably end up scoring the same amount of points than he does anyway. Moving on to a very controversial, which could really bite me back on my backside completely, but actually the only player in this team which is a new transfer. It's Man City's Ferran Torres. Now, it is really hard to judge a new signing, especially when he's not really well known for his amazing goal-scoring record yet anyway. But he is priced at 7 million. But he will have to fight for a place over Mahrez, Sterling, Bernardo Silva and Foden. But the reason he's on the list is even though he does play further forward than Foden usually, Foden is cheaper and much more likely to play, and has also proved himself in the league already. You know, it is possible that Ferran Torres could become as good as Fernando Torres in the Premier League, but we don't know if that's a Liverpool Torres or a Chelsea Torres yet. Definitely not worth the risk at the start in my opinion, but scenes when he ends up scoring 10 goals straight away anyway. But that is nothing on the prolific, absolute goated player. The last player to score in last season's Premier League, meaning he's technically the most informed player in the league in terms of goals. It's the 6 million legend, Jesse Lingard. Now that one goal J-Ling scored was actually the only goal he scored all season in the league, which was also the last touch out of anyone of the season last season. But at 6 million, he's not only probably never going to start a game for United again unless there's injuries, he's just so focused on thinking what Fortnite dance he's going to do next, he can't actually focus on his football. So spending 6 million on him in FPL would still be better money spent than buying some of his J-Ling's clothing, but both of them is a no for me. Next up is a player I don't even think deluded fans from his own club would even choose. It's Aston Villa's Jota. Now Jota is here because he is at the price of 6 million, even with only 1 goal contribution last season, and only making 4 starts. That means he's higher priced than players like Sid Maximum, Armstrong, and even teammate John McGinn, who got 6 goal contributions last season, even with a bad injury. So there are much, much, much better options for not only his price, but even in his team at a lower price that would also actually play. So I actually think this is one of the worst price players this year in FPL. I even think the Aston Villa medical staff spent more time on the field than him last season, and probably had better performances than him on the pitch. But that is the midfield dunzo. Honourable mentions to Paul Pogba, who in FPL is actually a waste of money, with teammates cheaper and in better positions. And the no longer Lord Lame Lundstrom, now classified as a midfielder, where he's probably not going to start most games, also being at the 5.5 million price point. Thanks FPL, very uncool. Moving on to the forwards, where actually this is the strongest part of the team and could probably be debated enough that the conversation could end up in Parliament. But I've chosen them mainly because they have much better options in their team and I feel like they are very expensive for what they can provide. Like, come on FPL, we're in COVID economy, lower the prices. But starting with Mr. Bobby, Roberto Firmino. Now he has actually consistently scored over 150 FPL points in the last 5 seasons, and he's the main striker for a Liverpool team that kind of just won the league. But he is priced at 9.5 million, where last season he only scored 9 goals, whilst also playing most of their games, whilst also only scoring 1 home goal all season in the league. Like, how did Liverpool win it so easily when they have that as their striker? And yes, I know the way he plays, it's not just about scoring, but from an FPL perspective, that's exactly what you don't want. So Firmino is a massive no for me. 9.5 million could be used to buy Werner, Rashford, Son, or even Martial. All I bet will score more goals than Bobby. Moving on to Alexandre Lacazette. Now maybe this is unfair on him, as every now and again he can bang in a proper amazing performance. And I've tried to avoid players that are potentially on the move out, but if he does stay, 8.5 million is a hefty price tag to pay for a player that is only going to start half of his team's games. Even when his only competition for his position is a youngster that couldn't even make it into the first team in the Championship lead side last season, in Eddie Nketiah. 8.5 million could get you players that will be guaranteed of more goals and definitely more minutes in Jimenez or Ings. With finally finishing the team with Michy Batshuayi. Now I do feel bad for Michy, he seems like a great player and always tries his best, but he is now the 4th choice striker at Chelsea. Now that is, I like it. If being behind Abraham and Giroud wasn't bad enough, Chelsea have now signed Werner, proper shutting out Michy's chances of ever playing for Chelsea again. A move might be on the cards for him though. I think you should definitely move him out of your team when he's still playing for Chelsea. The only honourable mention up front is Ighalo, who managed to make 11 sub appearances in the league, but somehow play less than 100 minutes. Definitely what you want from a 6.5 mil striker. And that is the team. Remember, the point of this is to show you there are plenty of bad options in FPL. And you do always want to aim for those players that play as much as possible, as they can only get FPL points for you if they're actually on the field and not being a water boy for their team instead. Disclaimer though, if some of these players end up getting a transfer, they could be very good options. But with their current teams, not. And that is it for me. This has been the worst FPL team currently possible, in my opinion. Not to be confused by my actual FPL team, which is the best team in the world. But thanks for watching, and remember...
Don't be a cheeky scrub. Subscribe to Nathan Bacon right now.